This is my Spotlight series, episode 3. Okay, the topic was brought up by some of our fellow agents and even consumers out there. There's always this question on your mind: freehold versus leasehold condos in Singapore, which is better? Without further delay, I pull out lots of data to share with you all today. Just a bit of a background. Okay, I founded this PropertyNet.SG portal since 2013. From day one up to today, my focus is actually on unbiased property facts and figures. I do not sell any projects, products, or developments during my presentation. I will only show you facts and figures that you all as consumers, as agents, with the figures, the numbers, you all will make your own judgment and do your own due diligence, okay, in your purchase. All my views and reviews has been actually used on like Channel 8, Money Week, New Paper, okay, even a Property Guru, on and off. They will also ask me for my views. I'm also a real estate leader, okay, leading a team in ERA. As per our presentation, we do have this disclaimer here. Okay, all our data points are all collated as of today. Or in the future, if you use it 1 year, 2 years down the road, it might not be great. This is a disclaimer just to show you all. Okay. What does a property with freehold and leasehold tenure mean? When we look at, or when we talk about freehold property, basically it is a property that we can use it, we can hold it forever, we own it forever once you buy it, unless the government have some plans to recover the land for their usage, okay, public usage. Else, most of the time, freehold property is for you to hold forever. For leasehold properties, it is leased for a period of, let's say, 99 to 999 years. This is leasehold property. This is the actually two main differences, freehold and leasehold. And approximately in Singapore, 80% of the land are all leasehold. To speak, there are very limited supply of freehold land in Singapore. Okay, typical districts 9, 10, 11, and 15 are the main freehold condos, and where the main bulk of foreigners are in, because they only believe in getting freehold. These districts are mainly owned by foreigners. That said, freehold or leasehold, which is better? Okay, which is better? 3 points to share with you all. Okay, 3 points to consider before you decide which is better. Okay, why are you buying today? Okay, in today's market, let's say today you are coming into the market to buy leasehold or freehold. You are thinking, why are you buying today? I'll go through some questions to run through your head. When you go through this sequence of thinking, you all will have a clearer judgment whether to buy a leasehold or freehold. And then I'll talk about which region, CCR, RCR, or OCR, and what is the price gap? What is the price? Why are you buying today? Ask yourself this: why are you buying? Are you looking at short term, less than 10 years stay, or just for short-term investment, put the money in, 3 to 5 years, you can take out the money? Or are you looking at long-term, more than 10 years, or pass it to your future generations? All these questions are, you need to run your head. If you're going for short-term, does it matter if it's leasehold, or does it matter if it is freehold? And even long-term, okay, does it matter? Freehold matters? So you think, and when we look at capital appreciation, when we look at freehold, and when we look at leasehold, how much appreciation are you looking at? Okay, you want a short-term burst of a capital appreciation, or you look at a long-term holding capital appreciation? All these will determine what to buy today. And if you're looking at rental yield, okay, how many percent? Okay, when you look at freehold properties being a higher price, the yield will definitely be lower. Developments in Orchard area, their yields are as low as maybe 1%. Okay. These are the type of rental yields you're looking at if you're looking at freehold in a cost control. If you're looking at low price, then the yield will be higher yield, definitely. You're looking at legacy planning, okay? Leave the wealth for your future generation, but you don't want to pass them the money, you pass them properties. Being said, all these are the pointers that as a buyer today, you need to really think through, okay? Think through what are you going in for. Next, I will move on to which region, okay? So for the region, every region, when we look into it, there are different considerations. In Singapore, there are a total of 28 districts. Okay, 28 districts. Which district is in CCR, RCR, or OCR? Before I go deep into the numbers, okay, let's look what CCR, RCR, and OCR means. For CCR, it is core central region. RCR is rest of central region, and OCR is outside central region. These three regions are the three main regions in Singapore that the price point will fluctuate according to the regions. And being the core central region, okay, which is the district 9, 10, 11, and the downtown core, which comprises of the CBD area and also Sentosa. This is the core. When we look at the map itself, okay, the map on the screen, when you're looking at it, you can see this map is actually from the URA. Okay, so basically URA already denote it very clearly. Even the road that runs through and cut through which segment will determine whether is it core central region, rest of central region, outside of central region. To make it easier to understand, actually I compile it in a way. On the left of the screen, you can see that the regions are in the districts. The main districts 9, 10, 11 are fixed. It's confirmed it's a pure, clear core central region. For district 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, it is a bit of cross between a core central region and the rest of central region. This part here, we got to really look into the road itself. All this you can check from URA. There's a very clear marking. Where is the cutoff point? This is the rest of central region. Okay, we also have certain parts of the districts is shared between core central and the rest. And lastly, the outside of central region. Also part of it, if you look at district 5, district 14, 15, 20, you can see that there's a cross between these few districts. If you cross that portion, it will fall into the outside of. That said, these three regions basically we have a price range which is they will demarcate these three regions very clearly. When you look at the price point, you will know that this is the data point that I put end of 2020. Once they close off, I pull out the price difference in the regions of these three regions: resale, non-landed, private. So you look at it, freehold, leasehold, and when you look at the core central region, you'll be surprised. Hey, how come the core central freehold per square foot, average per square foot, is lower than the leasehold? Okay, basically, this part here, right, don't be too surprised. For those who are dealing a lot in core central region, you will know that in core central region, because of the big quantum amount, the big price tag, where divide by the square feet, you will have a smaller per square foot, dollar per square foot. This is why you see the average dollar per square foot is slightly lower than the leasehold. Because leasehold being smaller units, but when they need to sell at a higher price tag, the per square foot will go higher. Okay, so but then when you look back down to the outside of central region, you can see that the leasehold is definitely lower price than the freehold in the outside of central region. So you can see the price. This is one of the differentiators. And the last point, which is the most important point, if you ask me, what's the price gap between freehold and leasehold? Okay, the two main indicators here, if you can look at it, okay, I separate into these two main points. Okay, the two main resale price gap to determine before we decide. Okay, the price gap between leasehold and freehold in Singapore, the three regions. This one you will see very. I pull the data point, okay, from 1995, whereby all our caveats are being logged digitally. 1995, I pull all the way until end of year 2020, which has a good 25 years trend for us to analyze. This is the overall non-landed resale private residential in Singapore, okay, from 1995 to 2020. The line that you see in blue on your screen now is freehold, and the line that is in green is leasehold. When you look at the annualized growth, that means per year annual returns is about, for the freehold is 3.3, for the leasehold is 3.32. Overall, Singapore leasehold versus freehold. And you look at the gap. If you look at the gap and the two lines, if you look at the two lines closely, the gap is quite parallel. Okay, quite parallel. The gap is about 18%, quite parallel. Okay, in tandem. So now next thing is I want to zoom in into the regions. When I zoom into regions, then you will see that there's a bit. Let's look at this core central region. Okay, you look at 1995, the starting line, 1995. You see that the gap is still there. But towards year 2020 at the end, okay, you look at the gap is no longer there. And when we look at our freehold growth, annualized growth, okay, it is 3.66%. And when you look at the leasehold growth, it is 5.08%. You all must be thinking in your head, you all must be scratching your head, hey, how come freehold growth is different from leasehold growth? If you understand the foreigners buying Singapore core central region freehold properties, basically once they buy it in Singapore freehold, they will put the property here forever. They will not touch. That said, there won't be much transactions to drive the numbers to go up. There's not much transactions to drive the numbers to go up. But for leasehold, it is very different. Leasehold will be more or less, most of the time, 80% will be owned by Singaporeans. Being leasehold, there's always this worry that, after 30, 40 years or 50 years, the property is already going to be old, run down, the lease is going to be lesser and lesser. They call it the lease decay. During this period, there will be a lot of transactions going on and there'll be on-block cycle that will be kicking in. This will make the growth of the leasehold stronger than freehold. Okay, if you follow me, this is the one of the reason why the growth is significant. That when you see in the long-term trend, when you pull it out, you realize that actually leasehold is actually getting more growth year on year. And if you look at currently in year 2020, when I end this data that I pull out, you notice that the gap is not there anymore. If you can find something of this price range, resale at around 1,950 per square foot range, it is a good time to go in for a freehold. Since there's no gap, you'll get a freehold for more certainty in the long run. Because in the future, we won't know how the market is going to react. All right. So now when we look at rest of central region, similar phenomena. Okay, you look at the start, the gap is there, but towards the end, the gap is not there. And you look at the freehold growth, 3.56%, and the leasehold growth, 4.14%. The gap is also very close, or almost zero. It's insignificant. When we look at the price gap for resale, we've got to take note of this. If you're serving your customers looking at resale properties, this is a good sharing point. Don't always just look for freehold, but also can look at leasehold. And then not forgetting, we got to think back, what's our point number one? Are they looking at a long-term or a short-term? All right. Long-term, short-term will determine money in. And lastly, our outside of central region. Outside central region being where all the mass market properties are. You look at the growth for the freehold growth, it is at 2.75. And then you look at the leasehold growth, it is at 2.54%. If you look at the mass market condos phenomena, right, you can see that the chart is running very in parallel. Very in parallel. Okay, basically, this is where all our main bulk of Singaporeans are holding on to the properties that we're holding on to by Singaporeans. So you can see that this gap is quite clear. Okay, in outside central region, okay, if you are going for a long term, you want to keep your property for long term, you buy a freehold. If you are, or because of price affordability, you got no choice, you go and buy a leasehold. So for this phenomena, you can see that in outside central region, it is where the mass of Singaporeans are. To summarize the above three regions and the overall regions, these are the price gap, okay, for overall charting is about 18%. And if you look at the OCR gap is 10%. Okay. I want to bring your back the numbers. Right? If you look at it, did the price gap of a freehold exceed more than 20% when compared to leasehold? When you look at it, there isn't a time whereby the freehold will exceed the leasehold by more than 20%. conclusion, if you run through this thinking process with yourself, you're got to always think through these 3 pointers: short term, long term. Then you will determine whether leasehold or freehold. Then which region you're looking at. Okay, looking at the growth potential, which region you're looking at. Also looking into long term and short term, whether leasehold or freehold. This will be the determining factors. All right. And lastly, the price gap when we are looking at, okay, is the price gap widening? Okay, when it is widening, then we will look into the finer details where we look at the long-term trend chart. Based on the trends, in conclusion, resale non-landed, okay, private transactions, as I said earlier, okay, when the price gap close up at the various regions, then we should go straight for the freehold because it is a no-brainer. Freehold is still a safer property to keep because freehold, the price will definitely will not go down. And you keep long term, it is still a freehold tenure. Because for leasehold, if you hold it for very long, the lease decay will still kick in. If the price gap is very close, as of now, RCR and CCR, the price gap is very, very close. Go for freehold. That's one point to note. And then when you are looking at, if you're looking at new purchase, buying new launches, okay, we should use this price reference 20% as a price reference. When you see new launch coming at maybe 2004, 2005, then when you look at the price gap, is there a gap of 20% compared to a resale, okay, resale product? So if the resale is about 1,009 or 2,000, the price gap is there about 20% annually. Obviously, I will always use this price gap to judge whether to buy a new or a resale. And when I'm buying a resale, whether to get a leasehold or freehold, need to look into it. For my next sharing, I will actually go into whether to buy a new launch or a resale. Which one is more sensible in current market? Keep a lookout for my next sharing session. It will be new launch versus resale. Okay, that will be my next sharing, where I will bring in the numbers for you to share with your clients or with consumers, new launch numbers versus resale numbers. Whether is it still sensible to go for a new launch? Before I leave, do scan this QR code. Okay, this one is where you will go to my portal to read up on the blogs. Do scan. And then if you can, subscribe to my channel. All these videos, I'll load it up to the channel, whereby you all can still see the replay. If you all miss some of the slides that you all need to capture on the charts, you actually capture the charts from the video itself. And then lastly, do follow our Facebook page. As and when we have a latest data release, we will load it into our Facebook page. I hope I do share clarity to you all in this short little 15-minute session. In the future, if you have any questions, anything, you can send an email through my personal email. You just drop me your messages. I will reply you all from there.